You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the Meta. The Meta controls everything. The Meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
We are live.
We're live. It's working. Hi.
Hello, hello. Looks like you are wearing an orange shirt today.
It's actually red, but I don't know why. It always comes on through the webcam orange, but it's the same shirt I wear every week. One day I'll figure out how to get it to work.
Oh my. So we've got an interesting show here today. A lot of things have happened, actually. We've had some breaking news just before the show began. We have Aerith and Jintan from the CSM. Who are going to be talking about the recent CSM Summit. And we also have Captain Patrick Archer returning as a guest from TRI, who's going to be hopefully giving us an update on all of the hijinks in the war in the East with our dear friend CO2 versus everybody else. So actually, let's do a round of introductions before we get stuck in. So let's start with Jintan, Aerith, and then Patrick. Why don't you each, starting with Jintan, tell us who you are, why you matter, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Yintan. I'm head FC for CVA and also a member of the CSM. Just came back from the summit. I'm also an AT commentator, man of many hats.
Many hats. All right, excellent. Also, shitload of resubs. Throwing some Black Eagles in chat here. We're going to get some shout-outs for that. But when we get to the top story, Aerith, tell us about yourself.
I'm Aerith. I'm basically the planner for Goonswarm, and all the evil plans is some portion mine.
And his biggest plan, of course, is humility. That's
I don't think he's had that ever. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Hey man, don't be a player.
Captain Patrick Archer, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Patrick. I started a war in the south so I could be on the Meta Show more often.
And it seems to be working. Job
That's
done.
like his third time in a month. It's great.
Op success. Alrighty. So what are we going to be talking about today? We've got the CSM Summit just ended. So we're going to be talking a bit about that because we've got two CSM guests. We also have the Southern War or Eastern War or whatever we want to call it. Big news in that Snuff has joined the Imperium after Project Mayhem has merged into them just moments before the show began. So that's pretty cool. And
even have a link to that. Look at that. Look at that. Imperium News article
we already have an article up, which is interesting. And of course, we have a massive pile of interesting things happening with moons.
Yeah, funny thing.
Lifeblood thing has happened.
The funny thing about that article is it actually appeared about 2 minutes before you announced it on the Fireside. Like that shit was up
it
quick.
leaked on Reddit first, and so he got it out there, which was excellent. And we're quite happy about that. So
on a scale of 1 to 10, how salty are you that they didn't use your expansion name, Aerith?
I was more disappointed because I saw the troll before I saw the real name. Like, so Noobman had posted in our CSM Discord the photoshopped or the image of the post on Reddit, how it was called life support. So I saw that first, and then when I saw Lifeblood, I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty dead obvious trolling.
Wow. So we're going to get into that in a second. Let's go ahead. And before we do our top story will be a combination of CSM stuff and the moons related to that. And we'll keep on going there. So let's do some shout outs. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, so Swallboy, that's Swallnuts. I forget the full name there. It's 34 months. Thank you, sir. CS Shuffle, 23 months. So almost 2 years. Wow, that's amazing. Sadis is 34 months. And H2O for whatever is 14 months. I don't even know how to say that. But yeah, awesome! Yay!
H2O for whatever. Alrighty. Okay, so let's go ahead and match the top story button in, but we're going to have to, of course, have one top story. We can't have like 5 different topics as our top story.
Well, it is all encompassing. I'll explain. So people keep adding shit. I don't understand why people keep adding shit. So the top story today is literally the CSM and the summit and what's going on. And during the CSM, the CCP dropped the moon mining changes on the Sissy. So all-encompassing CSM questions, because I have questions. Those are just my notes, by the way. And speaking of which, we just had a new subscriber in Honeymoon Star Eve and Viper for 11 months and Sally Solomon for 9 months. says goons.
And Daggerzith and Viper 187
And Tuzzy.
yeah, it's
Bunch of
lots
people.
stuff.
Oh, Terrorbead.
Yeah,
Terrorbead, thank
we've
you.
got some pretty cool subscriber animations there. I'm quite pleased
Yes. We got, that's Meta Show only stuff
with that.
happening.
Oh,
So we just had a new one.
meta-specific.
Yeah, I had to change some things a couple days ago to get ready for that. So they're adding more and more stuff, and they're working on stuff, and it's happening. Twitch chat seems to have disappeared. I don't know what the hell happened to that, but whatever.
I have it. Don't worry. So
Yeah, I have it on my screen over here, but I just don't have it on the stream. Usually it's on the stream for people to see their own little
oh, I see.
self-interests.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
odd.
it's weird. It's not popping up. I don't know.
Anyway,
Yeah, huge news. CSM Summit
so
just ended,
let's
right?
actually hand it over to the CSM guys. So Aerith or Jintan, which one of you wants to go first on your impressions of?
Go.
Wait, what?
You can go.
It's not me. I wasn't the CSM. I'm just excited to introducing you two.
He was obviously referring to Jintan when he said you can go.
Yeah. CSM Summit went better than expected. I think we had to fight on a lot less than we were expecting to fight on. But, still kind of disappointed overall, I'd say.
Disappointed overall. Aerith, is that a fair assessment? Would you say disappointed overall?
Yeah, I would say logistically it went well. Feedback, it went well. Where CCP head that, I think, is well. The problem is, I had to close the summit with basically making a plea to CCP Seagull on behalf of her teams, because it's pretty clear that some of the things that they want to work on, they can't right now.
Really?
Yeah, it definitely looks like some of the priorities have shifted. I don't want to get into why or what. I don't want to be anything even near NDA, because even like side conversations there are kind of NDA. But
Yeah.
I feel like they know what they need to do. They just may not have the ability to do so quickly. But again, I don't necessarily disagree with their choices. I think, the direction they're taking for the next few months, it's probably the right move. It's just, it's not going to be very satisfying to the player base, but it probably is the more safe route for them to take.
Well,
But
that's ominous.
I wouldn't say it's ominous. I just don't. People shouldn't expect these whiz bang things coming in the next few months. Like, refiners are a big feature. So
Yeah.
much beyond refineries in the next little while is folly, I think.
So
Have we been
yeah.
expecting whiz-bang features? I'm passing it over to Jintan here. I mean, Aerith got us a little bit more detail. What would you say, what can you tell us, Jintan, that disappointed you?
Well, we're reaching the end of like a 2-year death march to get Citadels finished and all of that shit moved over. And, there are lights at the end of the tunnels, but they're, still a couple of years away. And we were talking about things that are fundamentally broken in the game, like Fuzzy Sov, like Citadel fucking timers that still haven't been addressed, like Void Bombs, like the lack of a dedicated balancing team. And, they're slowly moving in that direction. They acknowledge that they're all problems, but there's no commitment to actually fixing them.
Wow. That's horrible on basically every level. I mean, one of the things that Aerith mentioned was like, don't expect whiz-bang features. Are there any whiz-bang features that, because I haven't seen anything that I was expecting as a whiz-bang feature. Like, the sad thing is, like, we haven't even gotten a statement out of CCP to seem to acknowledge that Fozzie is a cancer that is choking at nullsec to death, and that nullsec is the driver of the narratives of the games. Did either of you see any acknowledgement from CCP about the issue of Fozzie choking the life out of the most vibrant area of their game?
Absolutely. Fuzzy was there and was willing to agree with us that there are problems with the current iteration of Aegis Sov.
There are problems with the current iteration is a little bit separate from this is the cancer that is choking
All right.
nullsec.
I can't literally ask a dev to say, hey, the design decisions I made have, potentially crippled the game for a short period of time.
That's why they
Well,
need me
I
there.
can.
I'll do it. That's
Yeah,
why. That's
yeah,
that's both of the CSM. I got this.
I mean,
Okay.
Aerith, what do you have to say about CCP acknowledging? Was there any progress on at least CCP acknowledging? Actually, let me rephrase the question. One of the fears that I think a lot of players have is that CCP is completely unaware about what is actually happening in making the game sort of stagnate currently. Did you see any signs that CCP was at least aware of cause and effect of what was resulting in the slow entropic cooling of the galaxy.
I think they're aware. I don't know that they really understand the cause and the meta right now. For the first time ever at CCP, I ran into a dev I consider a peer, which is, to me, was, if he wouldn't have been male, I'd have had sex with him and cheated on my wife. This guy understands the meta. He understands the deep game. He called me out on a couple things, like in just live conversation, where he figured out the angle, like the deep meta angle, where, you know how there's always like a win-win if you plan for both things. He would figure out both my win conditions, like just talking to me. And I'm like, oh God, this guy makes me hard.
But who is it? Like, you didn't
No, I
say
mean, other than the fact that there's this guy there that's great and you want to have sex with him, you know,
no one else understands the deep game. No.
So I have a question though. You tweeted, I believe, as you're coming home. What I just heard makes me really hard. Like, what was that about? What was that tweet for?
Can't release that one.
You can't NDA that, but you're excited for that. Yeah, you are. There are excitements there.
Oh man, the Reddit pages are going to be glorious.
Okay, cool. That's my question, because I saw that tweet and I was like, oh, that's not surprising. He gets really excited really easily. But then when you think about it, I know it's probably NDA, but I'm just curious if it really is, because you mentioned at the very beginning, you're like, oh, I don't know. There's not really a lot the next couple months. It's just refineries. And then I saw that tweet like a week ago, and it's like, wait, what? That's contradictory.
I don't want to make it sound like there's nothing good coming, but I'm
Right.
trying to temper player expectations that it's coming super fast.
Right.
There are cool things coming that we've been waiting on for years, but I just don't want people thinking it's like end of year stuff.
Yeah.
wow, well, that is utterly disappointing. I mean, the thing is that, hey, there's cool stuff coming and you're going to get stuff that's necessary, but it's going to be longer than expected. You know, the famous example that I like to use is when CCP in 2007 at one of the first fan fests put a video up of Alliance logos on ships. And
To be
Yeah.
fair, that's something every single CSM since the dawn of fucking time has pushed for, but CCP doesn't want to do. It's
Well,
just it's a fundamental like disagreement between the player base and the art director, of which there are a few.
to be unfair, CCP themselves produced a video saying that was a feature that would be coming
Right.
soon before CSM even existed, and played it themselves in 2007 or so. So like that's basically
Yeah.
like when I'm told that it's disappointing in the near term, but things are going to get better in the longer term. You know, well, we'll just have to see. That's a bit shit. Is there anything that you guys can tell us, either Jintan or Aerith, that should make us happy? There's one dev who understands the meta. I mean, if the fact that there's only one dev that understands the meta in EVE, what the fuck is happening? How well do they, Aerith, could you say, how well do the rest of the devs seem to understand what's going on in their game? Like, do they know what the players do?
Well, I want to defend them for a little bit, because here's why. Like, here's the fundamental thing. Post T20, developers aren't allowed to play the game at a high level. Like, they can't be in leadership positions at Null or anything like that. They can be a line member, and that's about it. So when you can't even participate in the meta, how could you ever understand it? So I defend him a little bit on that, but this guy doesn't take part in the meta in the game, but he just fundamentally understands it, because this guy's a devious motherfucker. I love this guy. It's like CCP Rafi. I don't know what his CCP name is, actually.
What does he do though? That's the thing, because like
He's like a lead game designer. He came over from
Oh, nice.
Rainbow Six developer.
Oh, Nagul.
Yeah, Nagul. Yeah.
Wait, the EA guy?
No,
No.
Ubisoft.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
Ubisoft.
no,
He came over from
he's a great
Ubisoft.
guy. Yeah, we spent our first summit with him, and he was like fresh faced and like, you know, thought we were all nice people, and then he learned the truth about EVE Online.
yeah. To add to the T20
Nagwal,
thing,
interesting.
we're getting questions in chat. So to add to that, you can be in an alliance as a dev or like a GM, but you can't reveal your name, and you have to be hidden, and you can't be anything important. Otherwise, you get in a lot of trouble, and
Yeah.
you can end up being fired.
Well,
So
the reality is that in order to pay attention to what's happening in the metagame, all you really have to do is read the news, look at Reddit, pay attention to vaguely what's happening, like look at the shows, listen to the podcast or whatever, and talk to people. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
not, you don't have to be at a high level in an alliance in order to understand some of the basic mechanics as to why Fozzie is a disgusting
we'll get
failure.
to that. Yeah, we're gonna get to that at the
look,
thing
that's
later.
not the problem. They understand the the meta on a very like micro level. They understand, hey, here's why interceptors are the way things are used. Here's why this doesn't push conflict. But what they don't understand is the greater meta repercussions of those micro meta decisions, or at least that's my read on the situation.
Aerith, what would
Yeah.
you say?
I would agree with that. Like they understand first order effects. They have no concept of second, third, fourth order effects, or how the grand meta kind of like of economic models of PvP and fleet and participation models change based on little micro changes they do. And I'll use refineries for example, like very basic mechanics. Soon as they showed it to us, like a video of it, within like seconds, we already had major meta shifting implications pointed out to them that they hadn't even thought of. And it was kind of like, okay, I get it sort of, but not really. And they understand like, this will change this market, but they don't understand the greater design.
They don't understand that what that market changing does to the rest of the game, which is kind of one of the problems that we've seen long term.
So it's like a siloed thing. They're basically. It sounds like what you're saying is that they'll say, okay, well, I'm changing. Moons are getting redistributed, right? But
Right.
they're not saying, okay, so this means that let's talk about Fountain, for example. Fountain has a very high R64 moon count. All the moons are going to get run through an RNG blender, and there's going to be this new refining platform thing. And the reason why Fountain had never been invaded by the Imperium seriously is the Cavian Gap. If you know how to read a soft map, and I'm wondering if there's devs who even know what the Cavian Gap is. And now, when the moons are getting scrambled because Fountain has a statistically improbable number of R64 moons, more north of 60 of them, because it's getting scrambled, it's going to most likely revert to the mean. And suddenly, the strategic value of arguing about crossing the Cavian Gap to potentially take Fountain from the culture becomes irrelevant. So Fountain just became safe and irrelevant the moment that October 24th hits. Because it's not until October 24th yet.
No, that's still first. That's still first order stuff. That's like basic bitch level like understanding of the meta. I'm pretty sure you could talk to any dev and they would understand that.
Well,
What they don't see is like, I'm fairly sure if you say, so do you think that by re-scrambling the moons, are some regions going to become more valuable and some regions become less valuable, and therefore that's going to spark some conflict? I think they'd say yes, and that's a good thing. That's their perspective on it. But what they don't see is that, okay, but what kind of shocks is this going to have to the economy? What's this going to do to the cost of T2 ships? What's this going to allow people to speculate on? How much man hours, how much organization is going to be required to deal with this sort of thing? What's that going to do to change the overall structure of other coalitions? That's the point where they fall apart.
Yeah, see, here's the question I have for Aerith, and Jitana goes along with this. When they scramble these moons, it's been long known that, like, when Technetium came out, we were all there. We had the OPEC deal up north, or OTEC, whatever you want to call it. I can't remember.
Cartel.
The cartel, where it made, like, a region of the game exceedingly more valuable than the rest of the game because of just the way Technetium was sat. And I could see, a question here is for you guys, when they restructure these moons, are they going to go like, okay, the more remote a region is, maybe the better the moons will be, or is it going to be like a completely random ass fucking job here?
That would be NDA.
Yeah,
Okay, that's NDA. Okay, because that's the question I have as a guy who likes to shoot moons once this change happens. Potentially, is like, is Paragon Sol going to have more R64s than that low sec reason known as Black
Well, let me put it this way. Anyone that has any if you have any concept of mechanics and how the seeding might work, you already have figured out which regions are likely to be winning, just statistically. Okay. And we've already figured that out, and we're perfectly content to sit here.
Cool. And then the next thing to push question with is, is there going to be this bottleneck? Because, like, you look at right now, the only reason that people mine the R4s, like the gases and shit, is because it's automatic, right? You just put a moon down there, it's a little small pause, it pulls it up, and it goes to Empire, right? And even some random newbie goon can do that. How does that work with these new changes? Like, is that going to be a thing where people are going to want to mine those gases? Or is it going to create a huge bottleneck, like limited supply?
If it creates a huge bottleneck, then people will want to mine those gases. And who knows how much are sitting in hangars? Like we know goo stockpiles, at least at the high ends, are insanely big.
Right.
Like I just trued up what the Alliance holds today, and the Alliance holds even more than I do. Like I'm like, holy shit.
Right.
So
but, I mean, it's not like people stockpile gases. I mean, as far as I'm aware,
but people have been kind of trying to stockpile it for a little while. But just think
Right.
about how many gases probably sat in hangars for years too.
Yeah.
But will it rise? Sure. Will it rise to the level at which it's profitable for people to like hoover it up with Rorks? Yeah. If it does, then that'll be the price.
Yeah. Okay. So they made these changes. The moon cracking is out. It looks pretty cool. I mean, it looks pretty decent for a player who likes to look at things that are high res. But the cool one of the things they like snuck in there, and this is on the test server right now, is a thing called forward operating bases. Did you guys hear about this? Like, what the hell are these things?
I don't know what we can say.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
according to Reddit, it said there's a blood one, there's a Garistus one, and there's like another one in the notes, the like little patch notes. For those that haven't seen it yet, this was a CC leak, like the little like changes. For me, it looks like they're trying to make it so, like in our case, the Moloch BPC is limited to 3 regions of the game, but if you have a forward operating base that can drop it, that could appear maybe anywhere, you know. So I don't know if that's NDA, that's fine, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's definitely
okay. Yeah, because that shit just popped up on Reddit. So
yeah, if it's just like a diff or something, then we can't talk about it. It has to be something like that's testable on CC or something.
Well, I wanna bring up here, like, one of the things that struck me as really weird with this Lifeblood expansion video is something that, like, when it hit, I was a little confused, and I think that basically it was like, holy crap, did these guys like literally like, there's only so many expansions a year now, right? Like they've cut down the number of expansions that they're doing, and the expansion is on a planned date certain. Do we have a copy of the trailer? Can we link the Lifeblood trailer in
yeah,
chat?
let me get it.
Okay. And it's just it stunned me because, you know, at the time when you have expansion trailers in the past, there'd be a lot of effort would go into that production of that, and I'm wondering, so the marketing department, I'm guessing, is on the hook to try to get these things done. This trailer is not even a trailer. It is just a station making weird noises at a moon, and something lifts up and it says Lifeblood.
That's
so,
the flighting platform too. That's not even a station.
I know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So the question is, what the fuck is going on there? Like, it doesn't explain what moon changes are. It doesn't say what is happening. So unless you are a player who happens to be of the tiny percentage of players who is even aware about how moon mechanics work and how they're changing, you're going to look at this thing and go, what's going on? And God forbid you're not an EVE player yet. So this is an expansion trailer that doesn't communicate anything about EVE. It worries me when Aerith and Jin'taan are talking about, like, nothing's going to come, and that you had to like go to bat for the devs with CCP Seagull, and that they want to work on stuff but they can't. And if they're so busy working on something, I mean, where's the hype? Where's the explanation? Where's the communication about this big, amazing feature that's happening? Either of you have something to explain this basically half-ass trailer / marketing push?
That actually came up during, like, basically that whole questioning why there isn't trailers thing came up. We did get some answers. I don't think we can say what they are, but we actually did address that at the summit to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of... Jin'taan, what do you think? What can you tell us that Aerith hasn't, if anything?
No, I think Aerith's pretty much covered it. There's not much more I can add.
I just looked at
I
this
think
for
it
the
was.
first time.
I think it was Jin'taan that asked the question actually at the summit.
I just looked at this for the first time, and this has to be, in 10 years of EVE, the worst trailer for any expansion for any game I think I've ever seen. It's literally the test server thing shooting at a thing, and it's like someone turned on my stream and was just recording the thing do a thing for a minute. And
I mean, why
What?
can't... I mean, I know that the guy who makes the scope videos is in a completely independent department from the marketing department. I mean, if they had, a scope video has so much more production quality than this. This is just stunning. Like, if EVE is, if CCP is worrying about the player count stagnating and nullsec stagnating because of FozzieSov, in case there's any devs that haven't figured out that is why nullsec is stagnating, if you want to inject life into the game, you need to actually get people excited about the game. You need to explain a new feature, if you say, hey guys, we've got this big new feature and it's cool and it's going to change the game and it's important because of these reasons, you need to communicate that. Here is a space station. It's a refining platform. We know that, but the thing doesn't tell us that. And it mines moons, and that's important. Why? Why is this? It's literally, it seems to me when I saw this, I was like, holy fuck, did somebody in the marketing department just forget to put that they have an expansion that's going to be due on their calendar, and like
Right.
12 hours before they were about to like announce this, they're like, oh shit, we completely forgot to do our job.
But yeah, like someone
and
forgot to
just
tell
went on
marketing.
CC.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, oops, I forgot to do my homework, and then they just sort of crapped this thing out.
I'm looking at this thing. Could you imagine? I mean, if they did one of the usual cinematic trailers like they did for Citadels, this could have been fucking amazing. Like, they could have had like this fucking moon getting fucking fracked in half. Like, they could have went overboard. They could have had a couple of Titans guarding a mining platform and Oracle's ready to mine, and they could have done so much fucking cool shit. And then you get
Yeah.
this.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine real talk? If the trailer was like, "Hey, we're gonna blow up this moon," you blow up the moon. You know, there's like some sort of voiceover. You're putting yourself in the shoes of like some dude in a Rourke, and then boom, like fucking Titan drops on you. Some fucking bombers. You gotta fight your way out. You gotta reship, get into like some fighting ships, and you're fighting over this kind of, you know, luscious, very area of resources. That'd be awesome. That'd be fucking sick.
Maybe they even had a little Keepstar on grid, like 2K away, guarding the moon, and be like, "This is the keep." Like, they
People
could
are
have done so
mining,
much
things
cool
are
shit.
exploding. It shows it as a conflict
Right.
driver. It shows some other aspect of Eve, right? So right now, imagine you haven't seen Eve Online before, and you see this trailer. Somebody in chat here is saying, "I think that this might be worse than no trailer at all." And I think that's a
You're right.
reasonable statement. If you, because even this is on their official Eve Online channel, and you see this, like the YouTube algorithms, here's a guy they like Kerbal Space Program, or they like Star Citizen, God's help them, or they like Elite Dangerous. They're looking at spaceship games on YouTube, and up pops Eve Online Lifeblood expansion announcement. Okay, so it is apparently a teaser announcement trailer, not the real trailer.
Sure.
And you see this thing, and what is Eve about? You don't see spaceships. You don't really see anything. You see a space station vibrating and a rock coming up. What the fuck is Eve Online? You don't know. It doesn't communicate anything about that. So that might actually be worse than nothing at all.
Well, imagine an
It's worth
outsider.
noting that this isn't
Aerith, what you
supposed
got?
to be a full trailer. It's supposed to be a teaser, whatever that means.
Well, I feel teased. Aerith, what do you got?
I don't like their whole let's stick to the Grimdart thing. I would have rather them just showed like maybe the Money Trees music video with like refineries dropping ISK and shit like that. Like that would have been better than, and just go full meme with it rather than what they released.
So someone who doesn't play Eve, I just linked him this and asked him, "What do you think of this thing?" And he goes, "Oh, cool! You guys get to blow up moons for the hell of it." He doesn't like it. Nowhere it doesn't show you're going to be mining this thing. It just shows you deploy a thing that blows up a moon. That's literally all you get out of it.
I got nothing. All right.
That's all right.
Well,
Yeah.
Actually, I want to give people in chat an opportunity. We're going to move on to the Nullsec Power Hour because we do have a lot of news, but we are going to keep our CSM guests with us. And if you guys in chat have questions for the CSM, I will ask them as we move on with the show.
So quick, because we got another
let's do
guest
shout-outs.
who's been quiet. Yeah, 2 shout-outs real quick. Finality82 for 3 months, a resubscribe, thank you. And Irandis for 3 months. He says, Jintan noticed me. Irandis is our local anime.
Yeah.
And
I
Play
was-
Toy wants a shout out, so there you go.
Yeah, so
let's
we're
go
gonna press
ahead
button.
and move on.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump into the next segment. The next segment is it literally is nothing but south stuff, or east, or whatever direction on the map you want to call it. I call it the Southern War because that's what 99% of Eve's calling it at the moment. And we have a triumvirate member, leader, Duder, Captain Patrick Archer here to tell us all about it. And the first thing we're gonna start off with right away, and I didn't get comment from CO2 ahead of time, but I want to ask you how you feel about this. Admittance as an alliance leader, if you think this is a good idea. I think it's fucking genius. Some people think it's crazy. CO2 this week locked its entire alliance out of all but their Keepstar and their staging Citadel. Every station, every Citadel, all locked out. They put a lock and key on it. Nobody could doctor.
Really?
Yes. So GigX was like, He's like, no one can dock at any of these places. I'm tired of crabbing. You're going to the war, or you're gonna not be able to dock. What do you think about that?
Well, like he said it earlier, like last week. I think he already wanted to do it. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't do that because it obviously will piss off some bears. But like he wants to get the bears out. He wants to have a PvP alliance. So I guess that like it does that. It achieves that goal. So it's typical GigX move. But like, let's see how it works. So far, so good, I guess.
I got asked today. We did a fireside chat like we do every Saturday in the Imperium, and we usually take questions about anything. And we don't like to talk about our future plans. So we had a lot of people. Obviously, we hate CO2 because they're disgusting traitors, and GigX is a shithead. But people are asking, when are we going to get involved in the war? Like, we're back in Delve, things are very stable. We're working on some new projects, but when are we going to go get stuck in with the CO2 thing? And I didn't have to say something about it because it's future territory, but one of the comments I did make was, sometimes it seems like, well, we could get involved and attack them and, fuck CO2. But on the other hand, GigX does so much damage to his own alliance just by being left to be GigX. I mean, he abuses his people. I mean, it's very clearly like this shitty abusive relationship where the people in CO2 are making excuses. Oh, he hits us because he loves us. Oh, he mistreats us because we're the only ones who really understand how masculine he is. Like, it's pretty much just an alliance of battered wives at this point. And, I'm pleased to see that the rest of the galaxy is getting to find out that GigX is a traitorous piece of shit who mistreats his own people. It's stunning. I actually hadn't heard that. Like, I missed that him locking people out. He locked everybody out.
Apparently it was a major threat, and/or he did it. One of the two. Some people in the chat are saying that he didn't do it. He just made the threat of it. But there was some screenshots of people not being able to dock for a fleeting moment. And he's been known to go around and hunt people that are ratting or mining during big ops.
Well, that is true. We have a guy here in chat who's very angry. This Gustavo 75, who's saying that he didn't actually do this and that is spin.
Okay.
That is.
I'm just getting what
true.
I get.
Well, it was discussed for sure. So
Yeah.
Okay, so it was. Are you? So I mean, you're actually in an alliance, like you are. I believe on the same side as CO2. Patrick Archer, can you tell us like what actually happened here so we can clear this up?
Well, like I don't know if they actually did it, but I do know like GigX brought it up to me like last week somewhere where he already wants to do it, and I told him maybe that's not a good idea. Then he said okay, and then later on I think he announced it or even did it for a brief period.
Yeah.
He got, according to Villy here in chat, that he did it, and then he got, quote, convinced to undo it, unquote, by others in CO2 leadership.
Yeah, that's what I was getting from people inside.
It was
CO2
for about an
leadership,
hour, is my understanding. Okay,
yeah.
so the person up there who was butt blasted and being upset that we were spinning is actually wrong, because this actually happened. This has been confirmed by both people allied to GigX and hostile to him.
Yeah, like let me put it like this, right? A lot of people here in chat are probably gonna go crazy and say, well, you guys just spin it against GigX. GigX fucked us, right? But GigX is like that bipolar person who one minute he wants to stab you in the back with a knife, and the next minute he wants to be your best buddy, right? We saw that recently when we were up north. He was trying to give me weapons on supers to kill. He was PMing me about like what the enemy was doing, giving me intel, and then the next minute he's wanting to kill his own alliance. I mean, this is the way the guy is. He's a crazy Serbian dude. But that leads me to my next thing. As bad as he is at handling diplomatic things, he tends to lead his alliance from the front. And one of the things I noticed is pretty much every op, he's either FCing or he's running with it, like Mittens is when Mittens is around. He is known to do all of their logistics work himself if he has to. Like if everyone's asleep or something, you'll see him at a Rhea, like bringing in Rhea loads, him on GigX itself. And then one thing recently, this is a reported thing from a couple of guys in CO2. Thursday they had almost 100 plus soft timers, and they managed to save every one of them. Not a single iHub, TCU, or station went into its next timer or dead. And the question I have is, did that actually happen? Like, did no one show up, or was it they showed up and the GigX and company and you guys actually won that?
Well, there's a lot of soft trolling going on. Obviously, I'm not entirely sure. This was probably just in-pass trolling. I do know that at least yesterday they, I think it was Ratsalat or someone who formed like a hurricane fleet, and they got dunked a couple times. So they did fight and they did win a couple times, but I haven't actually tracked Impasse Impasse and Tenerifis because it's just so many timers.
Yeah, this leads me back to the cancer moment when I said earlier we talk about this, because I saw 100+ timers. I mean, you're talking like 50 iHubs reinforced from CO2 alone. Genel, one of the Goon members that's known for doing like Black Opsy stuff, said that the timer board was like 2 pages. It was huge. And then you see CO2 talking about, oh yeah, we saved them all, no big deal. So is FozzieSoft just that bad that none of the enemies even showed up? I mean, come on.
It only takes a few hours, really.
Well,
It's like 4-minute nodes, so defending is really easy if they don't show it. It's like literally like 20 minutes and then something saved. You can do it solo.
Yeah, the main Sov war ground so far has been Faith of Bolus, and Test is like slowly clawing systems away there, but it's like agonizingly slow. Whereas the main strategic fight has been in Tenerifis and Imensi, from what I understand, with like fights going over Fortizars.
Well, actually, let me back up here, and since we do have Patrick as a designated expert from the Tri side, we had Villy on the show not too long ago, which was really awesome. Can you just give us, from your perspective, tell us your idea on just a war update for like about a minute or so? Give us your overview of the various theaters in this war. What's going on from your perspective? What's up? What's down? What's happening?
So, CO2 moved to JI at the border of Tenerifis and Fithabelis, and like we're trying to basically cut off XTX and FCON. We basically hope that would then trigger XTX to move into FCON's Keepstar. So then Tenerifis or Fithabelis would be easier to fight over because then XX wouldn't be living in it, which they actually did somewhere this week. That does mean that the EU timers in Imensia for us are a bit harder, and the 2 supers that died, we'll get to that in a second, I guess, that's basically a direct result of that.
Keep going, please.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Do we want to hit the other things? Basically, at the first week, I think FCON hired Shadow Cartel to basically be the backbone of their capital fleet, because XX wasn't there at all, and FCON just doesn't have any capitals themselves. So, and then I think it was 1 or 2 fleets that took Shadow Cartel to realize that FCON is actually shit, and their FCs are risk averse as fuck. So they decided to basically pull out of that contract, and now actually manage to hire Shadow Cartel, and they're actually moving to our staging right now, and we built them a nice capital fleet and everything. So they're actually coming in on our side. And that's basically what we are now. It's a bit of back and forth over, like we're winning some iHubs, but we're losing some like random ADM1 TCUs, and it's use times on killing some Fortizars, but that's about it. It's no major gains from either side actually.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see if Villy wants to in chat let us know if he thought that was a fair assessment or not.
While we wait for that, one thing I did notice that happened this week was actually a pretty pro move. GigX might be crazy, but he did something interesting. Is he kind of brought PL into this in a subtle way. He took his 36N Fortizar, one that's been dropped for a long time because he helped Brave in the last war with Stade Bros, and he gave it to PL. Like, he just said, here you go, we have an extra Fortizar. Here you go, PL, you have a fully online Fortizar, 2 jumps from Brave's home system. Come on down. And I'm very interested.
That wasn't...
What?
That was given very specifically to Doom Chinchilla as well. I actually have a great quote from him. One second, let me go find it.
Yeah, get that, because that also is to a point that Doom Chinchilla revealed at the same moment that Chev Patterson was his high-level spy in Brave, his capital FC spy, and he pulled out his spy and then got a free Fortizar out of the deal, and plus some other things. So that shit's hilarious. So now you can have what effectively is what PL tried to get for like a month. They got now, like an online Fortizar. They've been trying to do that in Catch for like a month, but Test, CO2, Brave were able to stop that. So here's the quote. Tell us this one. Tell us this quote.
Oh, you can do the quote.
Okay, so the quote says, 36N Fortizar is to fuck with Brave, and Stage 2 eventually kicked him out of Catch What else would it be for? And that's straight out of Doom Chinchilla NPL. Doom is the guy who's been harassing Brave pretty much since they moved in. He does Oracle drops. He does everything. Yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty hilarious because I think it was Kanari or whatever his name is from Brave. He actually hit up Judge from CU2 or Gigs, I can't remember, basically saying, "Yo, that's a really low blow, man. Like you lost your only advocate in Legacy Coalition." And obviously, like they said, "What? Like you just threw us out. So what does an advocate mean?" And then they went cry, obviously, because now Brave's in the crosshairs.
Yeah,
wow.
That's huge because I mean, if you think about it, PL was just down here before we went north with NC Dot, like fucking with Brave on the daily, forcing dread bombs, doing shit from Curse Catch, and that they weren't in Dell for like 3 months. They stayed out of Dell pretty much all summer, doing stuff in Catch and Curse, and they never had a Fortizar. They would drop one here and there, or drop an Astra House, and it would get blown up while anchoring. Now they've got one online that hasn't even been touched yet. So that's a huge deal. So it'll be interesting to see, because that leads me into my segue to the next question. What is going on with the North? Are they coming down? I mean, you said Shadow Cartel's coming down to help. Where are the North on this in your perspective? Because I know Killer Beast talked about this a little bit. Looking forward to this. So where do you think they are now?
I think they're still trying to decide. I know NC, like I think I saw a D-scan of NC moving somewhere. We'll see where they end up. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like right now they're staying out of it because it's kind of like tied. So if they side with either side, that side will probably start winning instantly.
Yeah, because I could see that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that right now we are tracking that move up, and they've only made one jump so far. So we'll see if by the end of the show that they made the second jump, we'll be able to.
That's NC Dot, correct?
Where NC Dot is headed. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is big deal. Like Shadow Cartel and Snuffbox don't get along. With Snuffbox now in the Imperium, we'll see what they do from Lowsec if they decide to go after Shadow Cartel and fuck with them more, or they decide to go south. So this is leading up to a wonderful time, because I'm not blue with any of these motherfuckers. I can go bomb them all, you know?
We should probably talk about this now. That's a good segue. We mentioned this at the start of the show, but now is appropriate time. Snuffbox has the big news, of course, today is that Project Mayhem, which had been working with Snuffbox for a long time, merged fully into Snuffbox, and then Snuff has apparently surprised a lot of people, which is amusing to see, by formally joining the Imperium as a member of our little gang of assholes, which is pretty cool. So we're welcoming them aboard. We made the announcement about this at 1900 Eve time, and it's good shit. We're rather happy to have them aboard. We have Jay Amazingness has been working with them. Initiative and stuff, of course, have been very close, and I've been talking to Donnie Darko and Hunlight and Haiwanto off and on for a few weeks now. Yeah.
What the interesting thing about it too is that you were waiting to announce it at the fireside, waiting, and then it hit Reddit like 5 minutes before you announced it, and then it hit our own Imperium News right before you announced it. You're like, oh shit, well I guess I gotta announce it now. But the thing
that was one of the tough things. Like the reason why we did that is, we've been planning this for a bit. The worst case scenario is you want to be the people who announce it after the people who are joining. Like it would be really shitty if we had announced it and then Stuff's line members hadn't heard. So Stuff's line members heard, it was posted on Reddit, and we told our people because we didn't want to risk.
And the thing too, Snuff
fighting out for somebody else.
Yeah, Snuff members enjoyed it. Like a lot of the posts you're seeing out of Snuff members is like, woohoo! Finally, we're with a big group. Because let's be honest, Snuff as the Kings of Lowsec, we're one of the few groups left in the game that aren't part of like a major block, like permanently part of one. Like you have the North, you have the East, like the Drone regions. You have like a fractured bit in the South at the moment, and then you have us, right? Like there really isn't much left outside of the guys that want to do Lowsec. And with Project Mayhem joining them, a lot of people didn't know about this, but when Project Mayhem dissolved quietly, it was because their leader, Tao AD, which is a really cool Russian dude, by the way, he just didn't want to lead anymore. He was like, look, I've led in the lines for a long time now, and I don't want to do it anymore, so I'm going to go hang out with my bros. And all of Project Mayhem went to Snuffbox. It's not like they fractured and some of them were like, well, we don't want to go to Snuffbox. No, they all went. Like the whole fucking alliance, they had no one left, so that was really cool. But yeah, having stuff there, especially after right before the big war, we were at war with them for the Lowsec war. Remember that? We were trying to take moons from them and having Macarial versus Macarial fights.
Yeah, it's
Those were the
been
days.
it's been quite a while since that happened.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
interesting though. I mean, Boat's point is a reasonable one, which is that in modern Fuzzy Saviv, essentially, like you are either for PL and NC dot or you are against PL and NC dot,
Right.
and there's really just no way around that.
Or your DRF, and they just tend to be like whoever they want to
For
hire.
PL and NC dot.
Right, yeah, 99% of the time, let's be honest.
So
But they just don't leave their home very often, so you don't see them come to like Fountain, right? They just kind of stay where they're at, and maybe they'll come down to Catch or whatever. But an interesting point here. So you brought this up, Cat Marcher, and I was curious to ask you where you were specifically, like your alliance, because CO2 lost 2 Aeons last night. Just to Nightmares. Of course, all of Eve was on their way down. I took Interceptors over there. What led up to those supers even being in danger, and what led to 2 dying that didn't get saved? Because they look very savable.
Well, yeah, they were, but basically, there was a second like armor timer for us at Toyo that we refed, so we were all formed up for that as well. It was in Amencia, and leading up to that fight, like an hour before, apparently like half the CO2 Titan pilots and some super pilots or something managed to rack up an insane amount of fatigue, so they couldn't make the midpoint to jump past the gate. And the gate with which they were trying to take was in direct range of like FCON and XX staging, so it's kind of risky. But we basically said, if you take the gate and manage to get off, like either they'll drop you there, at which point like the objective becomes to kill their carriers and supers and everything, because we were in range to help them out. Or like you don't get through the gate, you go back to the other side and you just safe up. That was basically the plan, and it worked fairly well. Until basically I said align off the gate, so they aligned off the gate for a little bit. Then afterwards, like basically warp out, and if everybody that like bumps when you do a warp, because sometimes capitals just stop when you try to do a fleet warp. Like those people need to cancel their warp and sino out, and that's where they failed. They had like I was looking on it with my alt, and they had around 40 seconds of not being in any bubbles, but like
Oh yeah, they could have been gone. Yeah,
they just panicked, I guess, and like then they got bubbled, and then obviously the call was made. We're not going to commit everything now because it was an extra mid for us, which means we would then have to be
I see.
in Fatalis for an extra day. So we didn't decide to save it. I think they've already been SRP'd or even replaced as a whole.
They literally handed them 2 brand new ships. Like it wasn't like it was a huge deal, but it just looked like a situation because they, again, for those that didn't see it last night, Nightmares were sitting like 400k above the supers aligned out to their Fortizar, which was on grid. They fleet warped, 2 Aeons bounced in opposite directions from each other. They collided because they still haven't fixed bump mechanics in 10 years. Another CCP complaint of mine. Yeah, and so these Aeons bounced. They could have sinoed out. They had a beacon in range, but then they didn't. So they got bubbled by test dictors, and they were dead pretty quickly, which was rather surprising for Aeons. So, but that makes sense, though. You say they had a lot of fatigue, so that makes sense. Because what you could have done in this situation, for those that don't know, you can sino out like next door and wait 2 minutes and sino back in and save them, and you're going to have some fatigue. But if you already have fatigue, that's impossible. So that makes perfect sense.
At that point, they were right about on the gate, which was basically in range from the XX staging, and they were reshipping like to dreads and everything. So they were getting a lot of dreads, and I think at that point we didn't want to commit anymore because like we couldn't get there quick enough. We had to take an extra mid and wait like 15 minutes before we could actually get there. At which point that would have been looked a lot different probably. So that's when we decided to just call it.
That's interesting. I don't know. So that happened, and then of course there's been fights outside of the pure East, I guess you could call it. What happened in Wicked Creek recently? I know, there was a fight with Fraternity, Darkness, like all these people. You versus it looked like Legion of Death and Randoms. What happened with that? What was that over?
You mean today? Right now?
Oh yeah, it might have been today. Yeah, I just saw it posted recently. A couple carriers died.
Yeah.
A bunch of Battlecruisers.
Yeah, I think like so we've been in 80 time zone. Basically, we've been helping out Fraternity every time they have something. We just undock carriers and drop them on FCON, and then they cry because they can't really counter that. It's pretty cute. But this time, Fraternity tried to do the same with ratting carriers or something, and they got tackled by 100-man Ferox fleet, or they were baiting or something for XX Feroxes. It was a bit odd, so they called us. We dropped in. Apparently, they already lost like 4 carriers. So then we just killed all the Tech 2 ships on grid and made it about even. It's a pretty nice snack, I guess.
Okay, so it's just a fight. Okay, I didn't know if it was anything important because sometimes you'll see you guys go up there and you'll shoot a side and then you're with a side, and that's always confusing as hell. And then another big thing that happened recently, right after they lost their two supers, Gigex, like, he dropped his personal Titan in and like boson an entire test fleet. Like, it's what happened with that? Like, was Test just going for a timer or just roaming around and then Gigex appeared? Like, what do you know anything about that?
They were. I don't know what the timer was about. They were fighting like hurricanes versus hurricanes, and I was just looking at the test pigs because I saw a couple of them, and all of a sudden like Titan tackle. I'm like, oh fuck! So I hop on Discord where Gigex was idling. I'm like, yo, are you tackle? He's like, yes. Okay, and then he's like, you can hear some like tension. He was a bit excited, I guess. And then all of a sudden, Titan's safe, and then like he said it's safe, and then like for 4 minutes you saw test things, Titan tackle, which was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I heard this from apparently it was a Villy fleet. He said he went in the brawl about an hour until that happened, and I know Villy commented and said in a thing that Jintan, you're keyed up. Jintan.
Very, very loud keyboarding happening. Very exciting.
But yeah, so that's cool. And outside that, there's just been like little fights here and there. And so that leads to some questions I have. I know Jintan's here when he gets a chance to talk. Where's CVA in this?
CVA is currently keeping up with its long-honored tradition of not getting involved in fights, basically. It's not my decision, it's the decision of our exec.
I guess when the PR starts to do stuff with that 36N forwarders, I will see you about.
I guess so.
Yeah, so, and then one little thing here that happened. There is a Keepstar in Stain. It belongs to a group of randoms in Stain. This will be kind of a quick segue here about Test. It was on its final timer on Thursday, which is Thursday Eve time, Wednesday time, which is why I didn't get to stream it. PL Dreads apparently just showed up. According to rumors, the guys that owned the Keepstar just started hiring everyone that would come to help. Test apparently didn't use their fighters. I have it on good authority that their fighters weren't attacking the Keepstar, which would have killed it. I don't know what was up with that. Maybe Villy can comment in chat. And then it was only Test and Brave that showed up to kill it. So the thing lived. I don't know how, but
Fucking hilarious. I looked at the D scan for Test, and I'm like, yeah, we're not going to go there because they're going to have like a massive carrier blow. What are we going to do?
Right.
And then, like, I look on Reddit the next day, I wake up and the thing is actually safe because like it has 8 carriers with SS fighters, and then like and see in serves and something like completely meaningless stuff, and they in their fucking prime time they couldn't kill the Keepstar, which was basically undefended. It was hilarious.
yeah, from what I was told, they dropped their dreads. PL dropped dreads right in the middle of the Test Fortizar, got them all to tether up, and then siloed out in the middle of a fury of bubbles and Test Fortizar. It's like, wait, what? What the fuck is going on? So that was kind of hilarious to watch. Like,
according to Villy, the entirety of PanFam showed up with 100
Yeah.
plus caps waiting.
yeah, they have
Probably.
cap stage there in Stain. I know PL does.
Yeah. I mean, if you in your fucking prime time as a 5,000 millilines can't handle 100 dreads, I mean, what are we talking about? They were on their own Fortizar as well. So.
yeah, they have
So
a
one of the things I can report now, Recon has just
Sure.
confirmed they did a double jump. So NC has moved their supers to Vey. I believe Vey is Placid. I
Yeah,
always
that's
forget which
towards
region it's
Stain.
in.
Towards Stain.
Yep.
There was a rumor about that going around. And then one more thing about the FCON thing, because you I guess were part of this. You killed a Ragnarok on their staging Keepstar. What
Oh,
the hell
God, I
happened
saw
with
this.
that? So explain this one. Did he just like drift off as he undocked? Is that what happened?
Yeah, he undocked. I'm not entirely sure if this is completely accurate, but he undocked, and apparently he started watching Game of Thrones. And then he boated off, and then we dropped dreads on him. He instantly died because he was AFK, and then we managed to extract everything, including our Sino Dictor or something.
Yeah, I saw that every single one of your dreads lived. It's like the Keepstar didn't even fire back. I didn't see anything come out of FCON for this. It was on there, like, imagine, like, dreads appearing on top of the 1DQ1 Keepstar in our prime time, and then moonwalking out 10 minutes or 5 minutes later. That's how this went. Absolutely
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's pretty hilarious. Yeah, and there was another one. I'm gonna try and find this video after
Sure.
this, but there was another. There was a we tackled, or Hard Knocks tackled a nervous in somewhere in Cash, like not Catch, but Cash, the other one that no one gives a fuck about.
Right.
region.
Right.
And so they tackled it for 20 minutes. We like triple jumped Dreads over or something to kill it. It was an XIX Titan who was on the way to Immensia. And like we jump in, we see a bubble goes down. Apparently he was hit pointer, but then the hit got jammed by like 5 EC 300s, and the addicted bubble goes up around the Titan as it jumps out.
Oh,
It's fucking terrible. Yeah.
that sucks. That does suck
Okay.
so bad.
Time.
Yeah, so we're almost out of time. That actually took us to the end. CSM members, anything you want to add? Anything you want to contribute to this? Like, Aerith, I got a question for you. I mean, you tend to, like you said, be the mastermind behind plans for wars. How do you see this Eastern-Southern war going, in your opinion?
Wars, but more like OTEC we talked earlier. That was me.
Right.
The thing that really strikes me is everything in the South kind of disrupted what we had going on in the North, right? Like we were going to have a nice little scrap in the North, maybe spend a couple months, punching each other in the face. And then this thing happened. We pull back, right? We're going to have to get involved. But now we're in this phase 2 where all the first order people are fighting. Now we're waiting for the second order people to commit. And then we're going to be the third wave, like, oh, we're just going to go into whatever side we feel like is the best one at that moment after everyone else commits. That's what I like about this war.
Yeah, I could see Mittens. I want to get your opinion on this. I get a lot of questions from Bomberwolf, and they're like, "But why haven't we gone yet?" And I'm not making a decision until after we get back from vacation next week. But their questions are like, "Why aren't we going?" We're not blue to any of them. But I feel like if we went right now, then PL's just gonna join the other side, right? PLNC, the North, they're just gonna switch sides. But if we let them commit and join in, or let this war go off, then we could just kind of casually pick a side, right? Is that how it looks? Possibly, maybe. Without
I mean, I'm
future
not going to
discussions.
say on the meta show what we're going to do, but I will say
But what you
that
think, I should
we are playing our cards closer to our chest. I mean, basically, all of these people have been looking for a chance to jump in on one side or another. My guess is that PL is going to try to farm, test, and try to jump in on CO2's side. My guess is that if NC is going towards Vey, that they're going to try to take their R64s back in Syndicate that we took from them. So I think that the hope would have been that we would have intervened to go after CO2 and commit to that, which would then allow NC to take the moons away from the Imperium in the Syndicate zone, because we picked up like 40 plus over the last month. Due to Initiative's good work. So now you're seeing NC move. Now, of course, they could move someplace else besides Vey, but they did just do a double jump. And we're just going to have to see how things play out.
Yeah, I see. The thing is, I can see an interesting scenario where PL comes south and brings whatever with them, maybe Horde, and starts hammering Brave, which forces Test to have to decide: are they going to keep pushing on Faith, or are they going to defend their allies in Brave? Because Brave alone, let's be honest, Brave alone can't handle PL alone. I mean, Brave was struggling to hold their own when they had Test Dreads to back them up. You know, you saw Brave get a little bit brave by dropping Dreads on PL. Like, that was fucking nuts during the summer. But I don't see that shit happening with Test so busy in the South. So I'm curious to see, does PL ratchet up that Brave thing? Because they don't even have to get involved on CO2 side then. They could just start hammering Brave and force somebody to have to come help Brave and get all the fights they want, you know? So I could see that happening.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, the thing about this is, unless somebody wants to hold impasse, right? Like, all of this fight about CO2 is irrelevant unless there's somebody that could be installed in impasse. So, does Test want to put Brave in impasse? Can Brave even hold it? Who is going to displace CO2 if the object of the campaign is to purge CO2. In theory, the object of the campaign, like, one of the things that was weird about this is there's so many excuses being made from Test and CO2 both about why they ended up resetting each other that it was ridiculous. Like, instead of just saying GigX sucks and going after them, there's like all of this complicated Pro God Legend having a Twitch stream with people watching him talk about his side of the story and Squid Ink everywhere. So it is interesting because if the intention was for somebody like Brave or another equivalent entity to occupy Impasse, then PL attacking Brave wouldn't necessarily matter. You could put pressure on Brave's current territory, but if their idea is to displace CO2, then it doesn't actually fork test, because then Brave is under pressure in one place, but they're ceding that territory anyway, or planning to, and going after this.
That's an interesting point, too, because you look at FCON. Like, CO2's end goal is to kill FCON. But who the fuck wants all that FCON space? Tenephris and Amos. Like, who the fuck wants to live there other than maybe pets,
Well, CO2 doesn't think that far ahead, right? GigX is basically a short-sighted person who lashes out a lot. So he's like, we're going to destroy FCON, but he's not thinking far ahead. What's interesting, though, from a meta perspective, I think, is that because we now know very publicly that at the very top level of Brave's leadership, I would look to see what PL does next, because it has now been publicly revealed that one of their top directors was a PL agent. And so whatever plans that Brave's allies had made with Brave up until the point of just last week when this was revealed, all those plans are in PL and in CDOT's hands.
It gets even
the
better,
jig
too.
is up there.
I think Jeff Patterson even said he's still got people in places high enough to see everything. So PL's still saying, like, we burnt Chev, but there was a reason we burnt. Like, you don't just get rid of such a high-level spy when CO2's hands you free Fortizars. Like, you don't need to burn that. Unless you've already got something there to keep an eye on Brave, and Chev was like, hey, look, I just want to come play with PL for a while. You know what I mean? Like, it seems kind of pointless to burn such a big dude when Brave have dropped supers. They've dropped 3. Why wouldn't you burn him to kill those when he's had the keys to drop them into traps, It seems kind of pointless just to burn him for nothing.
Well, he's probably more value working with PL than he is being in Brave, because, you can blow up Brave's 3 supers, but you can do that without a spy anyway, right?
Oh, okay. Apparently he got caught. That's why they burned it.
Or he got caught. Then they burned him because he was caught, according to Villy, because he got caught with a timestamp. So that makes more sense. All right, so we are over time now, and I think
we gotta go. Yep.
Yep, we gotta scamper. What do we got coming up next?
Up next is Accessible Gamer and his wonderful show.
Sweet, and let's give some shout-outs if we need any, and I want to give thanks to Jintan and to Aerith and to Captain Patrick Archer for joining us this week.
We have no other shout-outs at the moment. Next week's Meta Show, by the way, do have one little important thing. Is going to possibly, like I'm 90% sure, is going to be broadcasted live from my vacation spot. I had a couple of people suggest we do karaoke for the Meta Show from our vacation spot, because we have the ability to do that. So maybe a drunken Meta Show from the wonderful beaches of Cancun would be fucking hilarious. I have a laptop.
Cancun Base 1.
Yeah, and if the internet's good enough, we'll
try to get that set up.
Yeah, so stay tuned. I'll have details about that. I'll send out later. But bye.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch you next week.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.